Hi guys, I'm weather analyst Andrew Fleck, just here for a weather outlook for analysiswx.com. And today what we're going to talk about on your Tuesday afternoon and evening is what we're currently seeing across the United States, and that is lake effect snows and hype from the central to the eastern United States on a possible East Coast snowstorm. The question is, a few days ago it was looking like more of a hype type of storm. Today, seems to be more like a no-show storm. Well, we're going to talk about that more so along with the lake effect snows tonight. We're going to leave you with that thought overnight, and by Wednesday morning we're going to give you a morning update and evening update just like today, and illustrate what has been going on with the models and the current weather setup. So what you're seeing here on radar is just some lake effect snows occurring. As you can see here, some of that lake effect snow, unlike a week ago, seems to be extending a little further to the east. That's due to not exactly the most best conditions for lake effect snows, with the winds being involved, but more so the areas between the lakes and between the mountains that might be seeing more of that snow falling. Of course, the accumulations are not going to be that major. As you're closer to the lakes, you could see 3 to 6, 6 to 12 inches of snow. A foot definitely could be occurring in some spots. But even as far east as eastern PA, New Jersey, eastern New York, and up around the northeast, you could even see some flakes, okay? Again, those areas you just had a front push through, so it's going to be a little harder to exactly get the temps colder and very quickly like they are around the lakes. So even if you do have snowfall, it might not accumulate to really anything too much. But we do anticipate that if you do have that, it could be a heavy burst of snow, but not expecting too much if you are from the eastern half of the mid-Atlantic to northeast regions. Back west from the central to western regions, you could see definitely some snow squalls moving through and lake effect snows up to a foot like I explained earlier. Definitely this is not going to be the setup that we had a week ago where some areas had 3 feet of snow, but definitely something that hey, it's a lake effect snow event, and you got to take that seriously. Whether it produces 3 feet of snow or a foot of snow, it's a lake effect snow event. Going on to the next imagery here, what we have is mainly a northern jet energy, and what happens is you have the millibars extending not very tightly from the northwest to the southeast, but just something that can bring some northern jet energy into the picture. And really, as we look at it here, you know, northern jet energy, you really don't have a main mother supply of moisture like the Gulf would have from the southern branch. So you are having that precipitation, but you're not having an excessive amount of it as you would be if you had the southern branch and northern branch affecting and giving lake effect snows like we had a week ago, where you had prolonged snow for, let's put it this way, a day to 2 days, and that's why you got a few feet of snow. This is just going to be a real quick clip and move out of here, and as we get through the day on Wednesday afternoon into evening, the low pressure should be there and extending out of here, and most of the lake effect snow should be ending. But it's going to be interesting to see what some areas get from the accumulations across this event. Any snow squalls, I'd be really interested to be hearing what you guys got. Any pictures, videos, I would love to see them too. As we move into the bigger picture, that is the storm this weekend. Okay, a lot of people earlier this week were talking about a no-show. Then some people were talking about a big show, and now all the meteorologists, not all of them, but some of them, have gone into saying, well, this is looking a little more unlikely than what we thought or originally thought. And while I think I tend to believe they are hopping onto this theory because of this up here, okay, this positive vort or vorticity. And what this does is it forms a block, okay, for the East Coast to having a snowstorm move up from the southeast to the northeast. Because what happens is, yes, you have a trough come down from the secondary energy up here, okay, and that's where you get the low pressure and just a slightly tilted trough. But the problem is, when you really want the storm to amplify straight up the coast, it can't, because this guy right up here is pushing down the millibars, and instead of it pushing straight up like I said, this guy will be pushing the millibars a little more out to sea. Storm forms at the southeast and moves off the coast. Now this is off the GFS model. Some models have been a little more different with this theory. You know, this positive vort is either going to help the storm or it's really going to hurt the storm. The way it helps is you have this secondary energy that amplifies the trough here, and then what you have is that counterclockwise motion then secondly amplifies, and you get a real extreme trough along the eastern seaboard here, and that's where you get your big blizzard. But looking at both scenarios, it's going to be very hard to attain to which one occurs. At this point, we're about 5 days out. That is extremely distant for forecasting any more than mainly the factors that I just explained to you. There shouldn't be a snow map out. There shouldn't even be a real idea to whether this stays on the coast or goes out to sea. So you can't really take this awfully serious right now, but we're just having a little fun here trying to understand, at least for the next 2 or 3 days, to what the models need to trend for an East Coast snowstorm, and that would be for this guy up here to either be weaker and to the northwest, or for this guy to secondarily push or amplify the trough to cause a major East Coast snowstorm. So if you want that to occur, hope for those two factors. If you don't want one, hope for this guy to be stubborn, a little more south where he is, a little weaker over here for the amplification, and the low pressure forms off the southeast and moves off the coast. Now, going to the GFS a little clearer here, what we can see is that you do have that area up here, okay, and that is pushing down this low pressure. It wants to come up, but it can't. It has to move out to sea. So it's a little unfortunate, but I will say the GFS has been trending very closer to more of the western trend. So I will continue to look at that and analyze that as more runs come out. So we'll definitely have to check out in the next 12 to 18 hours what has trended to see if we can get any type of different trend here for the better or for the worse. The one thing I do not like about the GFS is it tends to be sharing a double low barrel, and that means you have two lows in an area of low pressure, and what happens is you don't exactly get the right type of storm, okay, that's sharing energy between two lows, and this thing can't double barrel up the coast. What the low pressure did on the Euro was what I was liking. It was one low pressure, okay, and it was moving straight up the coast and bombing for the areas of the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, due to this low pressure up here being weaker and more to the north, and due to actually this low pressure amplifying the trough as well as the secondary energy and causing the storm to be able to move up the coast. The GFS, is not showing that. It has a double barrel low, and until it forms a one-figure low, I think then we can start to look at the possibilities of a storm. But again, the models are all over the place. The Japanese has a blizzard, the Euro has a blizzard, the GFS has mishmash that I can't even understand. The NAM wants to go with the Euro and GFS at the same time. It's all over the place. So last but not least, that's really about it. So, you know, it's going to be something that, in my opinion, is going to be needing to watch. In my opinion, I think that we just need to look at the models, what this area up here does. Because I think that this is either going to produce a snowstorm or absolutely destroy any means or possibilities of it occurring. So I would be looking at there more for the possibility of if a snowstorm could occur or not, because I think that's really having to deal with the big factors to reason why some of the models are handling it and some of the models aren't. So we'll see how it ends up. Again, we're 5 days away, so the only thing you could look at is just the factors and not really anything in depth until we get maybe to Thursday. So I'll talk to you by tomorrow morning, and we'll see where the models have led up to, and we'll see if anything changed. So I'm AnalysisWX.com's Andrew Fleck, and I just hope you guys have a good night, and I'll talk to you Wednesday morning like I said.